I transferred to a private college. It's $15,000 a semester. Wiped out my bank account for one semester. It was just like a very real decision where I saw my bank account. There's like $2,000 left. And I was like, I just don't want to go into debt. And why would I go into debt for something I hate? And for something that I can like go back at Christmas and like brag to my grandparents that I'm an engineer. That was really all I was doing that for. It was just several months of like, oh, that weight, right? But the moment I did it and the moment I sent those emails to my teachers where I was like, yeah, I'm not showing up. It was such a relief. And then it was like, the sky's the limit and the rest is history.
What's up, everyone? This is episode number 8, and today we are talking the business side of Sara Dietschy, one of the largest tech reviewers on YouTube. And when I was growing up, if you wanted to figure out what, tech to buy, you'd look to these media publications, Consumer Reports, PC Magazine. These media brands were the trusted resource in the space. And since then, that trust has gone from media brands really to individuals. People go to YouTube now and they watch people like Sara, and they are now the tastemakers. And it's gotten to the point now where the biggest tech companies in the world, the Samsungs, Apples, Microsofts, reach out to Sara and other top YouTubers to have them as the featured guests at their events because they're the ones who can get their message out there. Sara has over 750,000 subscribers on YouTube, which puts her in a really powerful position in the tech community. So we talk about that and, the tech review scene. But what we also talk about is what it's like to be a content creator on the platform since 2016. And anybody who's been on the platform that long has seen highs and lows because, you're building in public. You are creating a video and putting it out in the world. And the feedback loop on that video is immediate. You immediately hear that positive but also the negative. And what I loved about this interview is Sara is very open about that. Okay, that's my soapbox. But before we get back into the episode, you know the drill. If you're on Spotify, please follow the podcast. If you're on Apple Podcasts, there's this rumor going around that if you give podcasters 5-star reviews, it makes them very happy. I can confirm. So please do that and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, do all the things. It really means a ton in getting this podcast out there, and I really, really appreciate it. Okay, enough of me. Let's get back into the episode.
So it was like 2015. It's crazy how much things have evolved because now college does seem like more of an option. People still have that obligation and the pressure from their parents, but I think it's becoming more accepted to be like, oh, these certain fields, you don't have to have college and it's just so expensive. In 2015, I remember watching a Gary Vee video and Gary was just like, oh yeah, well, you don't have to go to college. Like you don't have to finish your degree. And just hearing someone say that, I was like, it sounds so simple now, but hearing someone say that, almost like giving you the permission to even think that way, I was like, oh, wait, he's right. I have a job. Like I was doing this video production in Nashville at the time. So it's not like I was making bank. I was probably making like $500 a video, but it could pay my $800 a month rent in Nashville. And I was like, well, he's right. I was like talking to my mom every single day on the phone, just telling her how much I hate college. And I've learned over the years to just like trust my gut, whether it was, I get obsessed with things. So, and the biggest thing in the beginning of my life was basketball. I was obsessed. And then something happened. I stopped
growing.
The
highlights. I saw the highlights.
Okay. Yeah.
And the Jordan basketball shoes.
Yep. I had one Jordan basketball shoe that I was obsessed with, and I could only find them on eBay. So I would wear them until they were completely destroyed. And then I was like, okay, we got to go to the outlet store. We got to go to eBay. We got to find some new ones. So I wore like the same shoe for 5 years. And
you could say you get obsessed about things.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, that's a good point too. It's shoes. And so it got to a point where I just knew to trust my gut. Basketball is the first thing. I quit basketball to play music, and that was the hardest one to do because, hey, you're quitting something you've put so much time and energy in. And then music was my thing. And then I had to say, oh man, music isn't loving me back as much as I thought. I don't have, I have a passion for it, but it's not turning into a job. It's going to be pretty hard. And then that transformed into videos. Even though it's hard to trust your gut, I've had some examples, and you always, for me, I had the pressure. So I don't know if you had a scholarship, or maybe your parents were paying, or maybe you were just like fine with debt. But I like grew up in a household where like debt is like evil. So so when I ran out of scholarship money, and I ran out of money, period, even my parents were having this very serious conversation where it was like, okay, here's the reality. You were going to have to go into debt because you're running out of scholarship money. Transferred to a private college is $15,000 a semester. Wiped out my bank account for one semester. It was just like a very real decision where I saw my bank account. There's like $2,000 left. And I was like, I just don't want to go into debt. And why would I go into debt for something I hate? And for something that I can like go back at Christmas and like brag to my grandparents that I'm an engineer. That was really all I was doing that for. It was just several months of like, oh, that weight, right? But the moment I did it, and the moment I sent those emails to my teachers where I was like, yeah, I'm not showing up, it was such a relief. And it was like, the sky's the limit, and the rest is history.
And then fast forward, that first video that went nuts was you living Casey's day.
Yes, vlog like Casey Neistat. So it was like a spoof on his vlogs in 2016. Yeah.
And I find that video interesting, but what I want to talk about more is what happened after that video, where Casey DMs you and says you need to start vlogging nonstop. Is that right?
Yeah. I was like, well, got any advice for me? And this was, 2016. So everyone was vlogging. So he was just like, quantity every day, vlogs, do all the things. And I was like, okay. So I tried that for 9 months, while I was also trying to make like my third season of Creative Spaces TV, which is this docuseries. But at the time I had a thing called the Adobe Creative Residency. So I was technically being paid a year salary from Adobe to just make videos, which was amazing. So it really was a time period that I was like, okay, let's try everything, right? If vlogging is the thing, let's do it. And I was having fun for a little bit. I think the thing was like, I was trying to do my normal content at the same time as vlogs, and that was a recipe for disaster. But I'm glad I did it during the time that I had that Adobe residency like cushion, I guess. I had just moved to New York, so I was having a steady paycheck. Looking back, it was my first like job, right? And it was like an $80,000 salary, which I was freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm rich. Well, I was in New York though. Yeah, and I was starting to look at rent, and like, oh, I don't cook. So, like takeout was getting expensive. So I really did feel it was that pressure. Like, you have to have enough to survive and put food on the table, but not enough to feel comfortable. So I still had that fire underneath me that was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So yeah, I vlogged for almost that entire year. I released another docuseries, Creative Spaces TV. And it wasn't until honestly the next year that I kind of fell back into a good cadence, because it was a lot of like figuring out what the heck are my videos. But it wasn't until I kind of came back to the original concept of my videos, which was like tech, creativity, highlighting other creators, and like I'm at the center of it. So it doesn't always have to be about me. It doesn't always have to be about another creator. It doesn't even always have to be like about only that piece of tech I'm talking about, but just like a blend of that gets me really excited. And once I got more excited about things and I kind of found my cadence, that's when my YouTube channel started growing again.
So 2 things there. First, from an outsider, daily vlogging seems like the
worst thing ever.
Yeah, to me, okay, I'm going to say what I think about it. It seems like something that sounds really good in theory, and you say, okay, this is going to blow my channel the fuck up. I'm going to be awesome. My life is awesome. Casey shows that even if I just walk to the pizza store every day, I'm interesting. But Casey is this unicorn. I don't understand how anybody could ever daily vlog, and the toll it would take, at least watching creators from afar, seems so tough to be daily vlogging.
Yeah, I am so glad it's over. To be honest, like a lot of people complain about YouTube right now and how, oh my gosh, you can't take a break and this and that, and which can be true. But I'm like, were you guys around in 2016, like the vlogging era? I'm like, compared to 2016, 2017, I'm like, YouTube is actually pretty gracious. You can
Right.
you can come back with a banger and you're back on the spot. Now, that's the hard part, right? You got to come back with a banger. I wouldn't say it's easier. I just think it's just a little bit more stable. Because like you said, it was the formula. So if
Mhm.
you couldn't achieve the formula of everyday content, then well, you're going to be punished. And luckily, it's not quite like that anymore.
So, not to harp on the vlog years. So, this is your career is making videos, but the channel is plateauing. What is
Mhm.
that mindset like? I mean, obviously, you've returned it back to great growth, but what was that time period like mentally?
Oh my gosh. Um, it was like so bad. So when it was like every day, you really felt like you were in this hamster loop and it was just never ending. So when you were editing your vlog from the day to post the next day, you were also thinking, oh, well, what am I actually going to do in this next day to start filming again?
Mhm.
And because I was so worried about the actual like content, there was nothing that was pulling me above it all and looking at actually like, how is my channel doing? Looking at what are the comments, what are people saying. There was no like actual feedback loop. There was no review process. There was no like, oh, that worked in that video because I did that. It was just the only thing that mattered was if I got a video up that day, which is not a good way to start a YouTube channel, because you have to be like, you have to think about it. You have to think about your title and thumbnail. I didn't care about titles and thumbnails. Oh, it turns out that's the only thing that matters on YouTube. So because of that, because it was just this crazy loop of, okay, editing, filming, upload, and the only thing that matters is that video. My YouTube channel was completely stagnant. I was literally I was stuck at 100,000 subscribers. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so embarrassing if I drop below 100,000, because I would go up to 102,000 subscribers, and then I would go down to like 101, and then I would go down to 100, but then I would go up to like 103,000. Okay, whew, go back down to 102. So that was not good for the mental health, because, at that time, like now I don't care at all about subscribers. It's just about views. But at that time, it really was about subscribers and that magical 100K number. I
Right.
just got all these subscribers. I can't drop below in front of people. Now I have everyone watching me. So it was just one of those things that it was not good. And that's why, something had to change, right?
What returned you back to growth?
Focusing on, like, it sounds cheesy, but like, what do I actually want to make? What do I want to make? Like, what's the balance of what I want to make and what I know does well? Like, you have to play a little bit of the game. People start a YouTube channel, or, oh my God, I want to be a YouTuber because you can just do whatever you want. Not true at all. But I view YouTube as, okay, everyone else who has like a 9 to 5 or a normal job, they have to do what other people want them to do, like literally 99% of the time. So if being a YouTuber or running your own business means that you only have to do that 50% of the time, I still think that's a pretty good deal. But where people get really screwed up is they say, oh, I'm not doing what I want to do 100% of the time. I'm like, that's never going to exist. So once I like found that balance, and one, I went back to, what am I into? It's tech. So let's refocus around that. You can bring in tidbits of your life, if you want. And then I was like, okay, what's doing well on YouTube? Let's get back into search, whether it's reviewing phones or laptops, and then just bring the Sara, the special Sara sauce, and just sprinkle in your life every now and then, talk to your audience like real humans. And it was a good formula.
What's like the 50% you do now that you don't love doing?
Oh man. Oh, that's such a good question. So I would say a lot of that 50% is like the admin and editing videos I don't want to. So learning how to delegate that stuff has been a big lesson for me, and has helped. But yeah, admin stuff and that, and just the stuff that pops up being a YouTuber. Like, someone's trying to sue me right now. I won't get into that, but
Oh, that'd be great clickbait.
yeah.
Well, one thing that you've handled well is your ability to get, blue chip brand deals. I
Yeah.
think, I mean, your list is, Intel, AT&T, Visa. I mean, we're talking, they don't sponsor very many YouTubers. I'm
Yeah.
sure when those executives look at YouTube, they say, we don't want to touch any of this,
Yeah.
but they've been willing to work with you.
Yeah.
Why do you think, one, how do you present yourself to get those deals? Two, what do you think they like about your content?
I think I got lucky in the way I grew up, whether it's not cussing, not like being into partying and the things that stem from those things. I was just kind of like, not a goody two shoe, but I was always into my hobbies and I was always just like into my own little world. And it turns out that that's not good for being cool in high school, but apparently it was good for like now the job I have now, right? So I think brands are still kind of scared by YouTube because you're dealing with humans when it comes to influencer marketing. And we talked about it a little bit in Clubhouse, but when it comes to influencer marketing, it can be the best thing ever. But that comes with the risk that you're dealing with humans with real problems. So it's just trade-offs with influencer marketing. Hey, humans have human things that they're dealing with. So guess what? Your video might not go up on time. They might not say your lines perfectly, but if you trust the creator and you just trust them, and you have those initial conversations of what you want to accomplish, and you've watched their videos, so you know it's a good fit, then so much epicness can come from it. So it might not be on time, it might not be exactly what you want, but what you're going to figure out is the response, the community building that you get from it, just the conversions. There's with a lot of, whether it's a TV commercial or traditional marketing, it's a lot of brand building. So you don't know specifically if you converted that person who saw the billboard. You don't even know how many eyes saw that billboard, but hey, I'm brand building and I'm just going to accept that that's part of my thing. Well, the great thing about YouTube is not only are you doing that, but again, you have actual metrics. You can see not only how many people watch the video, how long. You can put the link in the description to see if people, checked out the Squarespace link, checked out that laptop, etc.
So when you do a deal with one of these major brands, how many creative reviews are part of that process, or is it really not as onerous as I think it is? Because in my brain, they have like 10 lawyers watching your video to make sure you said the exact thing right.
Okay. So it's brand by brand, and I have experienced a lot of that. So for the bigger deals, say I've only had a few of these, but say it's like the big 6-figure deals with the huge brands that do have the team of lawyers, right? Yeah. I try to avoid that. So on those few occasions, yes, they will come back with a thing saying like, hey, you can't actually say iPhone. So every time you said that, refilm it to where you say phone. Hey, you can't show the notch on your iPhone because that means it's an iPhone. So I'll have to literally a lot of those times, those things get in the way of my own creativity, my own authenticity that they're paying for. So really those types of deals, it probably comes out to maybe one a year with that, where I'll just deal with it.
So we have one last question. What's one thing you'd want to do over again, or one thing you regret in like the past,
Ooh.
I don't know, 3 years?
Man, I will say, so maybe I'm not answering your question, but I will say this past year, something that I'm grateful for is I made less videos, but I was kind of able to refocus on like just the content of them, and being able to say, okay, this iPad review, I'm not going to worry about the embargo dates or like being the first person with the review up, but let's like really get into this and dork out over this and really figure out what people want to hear, what's going to be helpful. So I wasn't the first one. I was one of the last to probably post an iPad Pro review. I took my time with it, and I think I did a really good job. And guess what? Like that was rewarded with views. And so it's crazy to like post less videos this past year, but have like more views than even 2019, which is crazy. So it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, maybe the answer sometimes is slowing down, really figuring out what works, focus on thumbnails and titles, and like kind of get back to the core of like, how can I help my audience? Even if they're not my audience, if they just stumble upon my video, what do they really want to know about this piece of tech? And how can I be fun and entertaining and like relate to them at the same time?
I'm fascinated by this moment. So the iPad Pro comes out. Is every tech reviewer racing to get the first video out?
That's something that I have been so against now too, is like, I used to do that rat race, whether it was going to an event. It's kind of like an equivalent to like a hackathon for a coder, when there's like 7 YouTubers at the Apple event who can get their video up first and who can like do the best video at the same time. So I actually still like those, but it has to be something like an Apple event where there's only like 7 to 10 YouTubers there. Like there's not 100 of them there, you know, so there's still a little bit of scarcity.
Right.
Those are my favorite ones. And of course, with everything that's happened this past year, events aren't happening. So now they're just more sending out their tech. Is that now people have, maybe 4 days now to create their video. Well, I'm not going to get the best review ever. If I'm only using this for 4 days, maybe I have other videos I'm doing too. I can't just drop everything. I'm not going to make my best video in that time. See what happens if you take your time and make the best video possible. I didn't even have a good thumbnail for this video, but yeah, like, I don't know why I like this video so much, because it's not even like it's the prettiest thing I've ever shot or it's the best edit, but it's just thorough. And it was also a 25-minute video, which made me nervous, but it was the most searchable title ever, iPad Pro 2020 review. And it, ended up in search getting like 885,000 views.
No big deal.
Sponsored by Audible. I think they were stoked on those, on delivering on that.
Shout out Audible.
Yeah. What up, Audible? And I just had fun with it. I took my time. I was freaking out because that was in the beginning of the pandemic. Was probably souped up on lots of alcohol. But that's what I learned from this past year, is like, in the tech sphere specifically, don't feel like you have to be the first person with it up. Sometimes it still matters, but like, just make a good video. So now I'm prioritizing make a good video instead of having one of the first videos up.
So as an outsider, kind of, the through line through your career seems to be just constantly refocusing back on, like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Vlogging, you did that, but then you realize, okay, vlogging took away from what I really love doing. Mm-hmm. I like doing the podcast, but felt like the podcast stretched me too thin from doing what I really like doing. And then now you're kind of in the situation now where not only you've taken away the noise of New York life, which as a fellow New Yorker, I'm not mad at you for leaving. I think about leaving. I'm not sure if I want to leave, but I moved to Brooklyn, which was my way of just at least getting into like a small city vibe. But now you get to focus on what you really love doing kind of full time.
Mm-hmm. I think that is a great insight. It's almost like I'm having an epiphany too, where I'm like, the only answer is just doubling down on what's working, right? Because that's really, of course, you have to have these side things. I mean, that's the reason why, we're opening up the studio Blanco, is because I'm just like, I need something in the physical world to just like feel like I'm doing something meaningful, because you're in this digital world so often that you kind of lose that. So even though that's probably not going to make bank, it's like good for the soul. So sometimes you have to have those side missions to feel fulfilled and to even have the feeling of like been there, done that. Because that's why it's hard to even say that I regret things, because hey, if I didn't vlog, I probably wouldn't be where I was today. I think that's a great insight.
So the way I think about it is I'm going down a path right now, and worst case scenario, it doesn't work out. God bless. Hopefully it does. But like, I don't have this nagging thing in the left side of my brain being like, well, what if you had enough, you actually went for the podcast. And then if you go, whatever you're going to do next, you're going to be more solid in what you do. And so I think,
and you learn so much as you're on the journey, because it's like
into the physical part. Like I was talking to Cody, and he had these same, I think, as creators who've been on the platform for as long as you have, they now want to transition to maybe ways I make money where my face isn't have to be in front of the camera 24/7.
That's the $1 billion question. Yeah,
that's
I'm
what
gonna
I hear
have to,
everywhere now.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to. We'll have to do like a second podcast only about that, because that is literally something I'm constantly thinking about, and that's something the moment you have success on YouTube, and I think this is why we've seen people like Jimmy and Mr. Beast like succeed so much. Is like, oh, there's nothing else. Like he is a YouTuber through and
Oh,
through, and
he'll be
nothing else
90 doing
matters.
YouTube.
Exactly. And so that's what I find so fascinating. And that's kind of like where I am in my life too, is because I've always had that in the back of my head. Okay, once you have this audience on YouTube, what's next? Because I'm not going to be doing this when I, have kids and I'm like 50 years old. But like, why not though? I could
No one's
be
answered
doing
that
that.
question yet, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it hasn't existed.
Hasn't
And
happened.
so, exactly. And so I think everyone, once they get any type of attention, what's next? And I don't want it to have to do with my face. And that has been that's always on my mind. But where I am right now is I'm kind of like letting that take a back seat. I do have some things that, of course, don't rely on my face, which I think is good. And I'll slowly build up those. But now I'm kind of like, okay, what would it look like if I just doubled down on what's working? And I think people try to move on too quickly, right? Because this show could have 10 more years. Who knows?
Yeah, and I think I totally hear where you're coming from in that I think there's this moment where, but you're also seeing why creators now are moving into more business related things where they want
Yeah.
to invest in companies. They want to find ways where I don't just have to do XYZ to make money. And so like your studio seems like a perfect example of this is a real world business that I can build, that I can use my YouTube channel. There's a guy, Christian Guzman, who's a massive fitness YouTuber, and I've went down his rabbit hole, but he uses his YouTube channel as a way to build up people to come to his gym in Dallas. And he's
Oh,
building
cool.
this massive gym. And like that is how he's connecting the two things so that you could say 5-10 years from now, he's maybe stopped doing YouTube, but his gym is the biggest gym in Dallas.
Exactly. And that's kind of like, I think that's the whole point, right? You build your own business, you start a YouTube channel, whatever it is, to have control of your life. And then you realize it's taking over your life. And then you kind of say, okay, how can I use this to get back to the original goal of having more control and not being able to have it be all consuming? But then like what I've learned is like, it doesn't matter if it's YouTube or like you're running an insurance company. If you're at the helm and you're making decisions, it's your entire life. There's like no shortcuts. There's no, oh, I'm going to go chill on a beach for a month and not talk to anyone. Like, I think that's where people get warped, is they think that like entrepreneurship and owning your own business is like doing whatever you want. When it's like, yeah, I can do whatever I want and just like go to Miami for a month, but I'm going to be working.
Right.
Well,
that's the thing. It's actually almost worse because it's all on you.
Exactly.
For instance, if you work a 9 to 5, you aren't as invested. So maybe you don't get the fulfillment, but at the same time, you have 2 weeks of vacation.
Yeah.
And you have an out of office email. Sara Dietschy can't have an out of office email. Maybe you can for 2 weeks, but there's brand deals calling. You got Apple just dropped their new thing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, this is actually a good example. A few months ago, I hadn't seen my family in a long time. John and I were just like burned in New York. And my family was like, hey, we're like renting this little cottage thing in Colorado. You guys should come hang out with us. I was like, oh my God, finally a break. Well, with events, you never know. Like Apple was on a weird schedule with their phones. This is the iPhone 12 release. So you don't know when they're releasing. Get to Colorado, guess what I'm doing?
Oh no.
I'm looking out for my shipment of all of the iPhone 12 videos to then make my 3 videos on them. So do you think I was out like having fun with my family in Colorado? No.
I know that feeling.
So it was good because, hey, now I have a mountain that I'm hiking up to like do a camera test. So I'll hang out with my family and John during those times. And that was fun. I would go outside for 1 hour of the day and do that, but I was still taking pictures with the new phone, and I'm not complaining, but it was like, those are the most stressful times of the year. And it just so happened to happen on the 1 week that I was taking a vacation. So yeah, it just doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was at a family. I remember I was at a family reunion, and I think I told this story last podcast, but Casey calls and wants to go to an event. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be locked in a room for the next 4 hours trying to figure out how to make that happen because I have to do this. And I was like, well, can someone else do this? And I said, nope, not really. I really want to do this. And so, but it's a blend of, it's your passion, where for me, it was my passion to get that Casey video. But at a certain point, we've kind of talked through this podcast, you develop burnout of I'm tired of doing the same, or I'm tired of doing things that I'm not excited about.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's finding the balance. You know, every time I create a video without a brand deal in it, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Wait, I'm like, this is why I make YouTube videos. And then I'm like, oh, wait, but I need to like hire an editor. So this is also sustainable. So, oh, wait, I need to go back to doing brand deals.
Yeah.
So it's
Audible.
yeah, shout out to, you know, Squarespace and Audible. So it's just, it's a balance, man. And it's so hard. So you just kind of have to like, for every brand deal, make something for yourself, you know?
All right, everyone, that was the episode. I hope you guys liked it. I'm still thinking about what we got into at the end of the interview about what the second half of a content creator's career looks like, because no one really knows, because it's never really been done before. And Cody talked about it too. At a certain point, you start to wonder what it's like to maybe not have your face in front of a camera all the time, and different ways to further your career. But at the same time, you've built up this platform. Sara has 750,000 subscribers, and that's an incredible resource for her to take advantage of. So it's just really interesting to hear these creators think about where they might go next, or what the future might look like 5, 10, 15 years from now. Before I leave you and see you next week, you know the drill. I'm going to ask you again. If you're on Apple, please subscribe and leave me a 5-star review. If you're on Spotify, please follow. If you're on YouTube, smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, leave me a comment, tell me how amazingly smart I am. All that stuff means a ton. Okay, I'll see you next week.